Welcome to Reformed Thinking.
Glad to be here.
This is the deep dive segment. It's where we take significant writings, really get into them, and pull out the key insights.
Yeah, the idea is to cut through all the noise, really.
Exactly. Bring you what's most valuable. We try to find some, memorable facts and hopefully have a good conversation along the way.
That's the plan.
So today, we're opening up Scripture, Psalm 12.
A powerful one.
And we're looking at it using Matthew Poole's commentary as our guide. Now, this psalm comes from a really difficult time for David.
Under King Saul's rule, during a period of, great distress for David.
Right. Poole helps us see it was written during Saul's pretty terrible government and his persecution of David and others who were loyal to him.
So our aim today is to really uncover David's cry to God. A cry for help in a time when society itself felt like it was falling apart.
Yeah, a time of real decay. Poole's commentary is great for helping us see just how bad things were.
It really sketches out the landscape David was living in.
Okay, so let's try to picture this scene Poole describes. This isn't just, a king making a few bad choices.
No, not at all. Poole calls it Saul's ill government. It was actively harmful.
Right. Harmful specifically to David and, as Poole says, other good men who favored him. So goodness itself was being targeted, pushed aside.
It paints a picture of society where basic decency was diminishing, where the normal supports people rely on were just gone.
It suggests isolation, antagonism towards righteousness, a really tough environment.
And it's crucial to get this background. David isn't just complaining vaguely about life being hard.
No, it's specific. It's this oppressive reality he's in.
Poole notes David felt destitute of human comfort. Think about that. Feeling like no one around can offer any real solace or help.
That's a deep kind of isolation. No human support available. The usual places you'd turn for help. Closed off.
Yeah, a fundamental lack.
And that kind of desperation, it pushes you. David's opening isn't quiet. It's blunt.
Hell LP, Lord.
Almost a shout, isn't it? Given the context Poole lays out, definitely. Poole explains it as a plea to save me and other good men from the subtlety and rage of wicked men. He's asking for rescue.
Not just for himself, but for others too, caught in this same dangerous situation.
And Poole highlights why he cries out to God specifically. He says, Saul, the king, will not help us.
And other people.
Yeah.
They cannot help. They lack the power or maybe the will in that climate.
Which makes it, as Poole puts it, a fit season for thee, God, to help, when all human options are exhausted.
When earthly support is just gone, God is the only recourse left.
It really speaks to how broken things were, institutions, relationships, all failing.
And David observes this moral unraveling directly. He says, the godly man ceaseth.
That sounds pretty final. What does Poole say that means?
Poole sees it as pointing to a widespread loss of mercy in humanity. It wasn't just a few people going astray.
So basic kindness was disappearing.
Seems like it. Think about David and his friends. Poole notes they were sorely and causelessly persecuted, banished from our homes and friends, and yet few or none pity us.
Wow. No pity, even when unjustly banished. That shows a real coldness in society.
A lack of basic human compassion. It leaves the vulnerable totally exposed.
It's a bleak picture. It gets worse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The psalm adds, the faithful fail from among the children of men.
Right. Poole says this isn't just about religious devotion declining. It's about something more basic.
Like everyday honesty.
Exactly. Poole mentions a loss in common honesty in their words and dealings with men. Imagine a society where you can't trust what people say in everyday interactions.
Agreements, conversations.
Yeah.
You just can't rely on them. Truthfulness itself is eroding.
It shatters trust, makes everything precarious. Suspicion becomes the norm.
And this sets up that stark contrast with God's truth later on.
Absolutely. When human honesty fails so badly, it really highlights the need for something or someone reliable. So this lack of honesty, this failure of the faithful, leads directly into the kind of speech David complains about.
The wicked speech. What does the psalm say?
Verse 2, they speak vanity, everyone with his neighbor. Poole helps us unpack vanity.
What does it mean here? Not just pride.
No, Poole says it means falsehood. Something empty, lacking the solidity of truth. It's speech designed to mislead without any real basis.
So it's lies, but maybe more than that, like empty, insubstantial talk.
Yeah, like rhetoric built on nothing. And it's deceptive in how it's delivered, too.
How so?
The psalm says they speak with flattering lips and with a double heart.
Flattery and a double heart. What's Poole's take on that?
He's pretty direct. He says it means pretending one heart, a kind and upright heart, when they really have another, even a cruel and deceitful heart.
Pure hypocrisy, then. Saying one thing, meaning another. Appearing kind while planning harm.
Exactly. Poole actually suggests this was typical of Saul's fawning courtier.
Ah, the people around the king, trying to gain favor.
Right. Saying whatever Saul wanted to hear or whatever would hurt David, even if it was cloaked in pleasantries.
That makes the deceit even more dangerous, doesn't it? When it comes in disguises friendship or sincerity.
It really does. It shows a deep internal corruption spilling out in their words. And they don't just flatter, they also speak proud things.
Proud things. What does Poole make of that?
He interprets it as great things or great words. It could be boasting, but also significantly threats.
Okay, so big talk, bragging or menacing.
But here's a key insight from Poole. These wicked people actually believed their words alone were enough. They thought they could achieve their aims just by talking.
Really? Just with words? No need for action?
That's the idea Poole highlights. They believed they could use words so cleverly, so effectively, that they wouldn't need to strike a stroke, as he puts it. They saw language itself as a weapon powerful enough to destroy their enemies.
That's quite some confidence in their own rhetoric.
Yeah.
A chilling kind of arrogance.
It absolutely is, and that arrogance culminates in their declaration in verse 4.
What do they say?
With our tongue will we prevail, our lips are our own, who is Lord over us.
Wow. With our tongue will we prevail. So, explicit confirmation of what you just said. They plan to win through talking.
Yes. And Poole explains how they plan to prevail. By raising and spreading slanders and evil reports against David.
The goal being?
To enrage Saul against David and the hearts of the people alienated from him. They knew how powerful false narratives and gossip could be.
Turning the king and the public against him through lies. It's calculated.
Very. And that phrase, our lips are our own. Poole says it shows their belief that their words are at our own disposed to speak what we please.
Total freedom, they think. No limits on what they can say.
An absolute claim to autonomy in speech. Like they have a right to say anything, regardless of truth or harm.
And then, who is Lord over us? That sounds like a direct challenge to any authority.
It is. Poole says it signifies a practical atheism, almost. A belief that no god or human ruler is truly above them or can hold them accountable for their words.
Is this something they'd actually say out loud?
Poole clarifies, probably not always explicitly spoken. He calls it the language of their actions.
So their behavior shows this belief.
Exactly. Their willingness to lie, slander, flatter deceitfully, it demonstrates that neither the fear of God nor the reverence of men can keep them from speaking whatsoever they please, especially if it serves their interests.
They act as if they're accountable to no one. A self-made moral vacuum.
Precisely. And living in a world dominated by that mindset where words are weapons and accountability is rejected, well, you can see why David cries out, "Help ye, Lord!"
Yeah, it sets the stage perfectly for needing some kind of intervention.
And that intervention comes. Right after describing this peak of human arrogance and deceit, the psalm pivots dramatically.
To God's response.
Yes. Verse 5 starts, "For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy." God's action is explicitly linked to the suffering David has been outlining.
The poor, the needy, those being crushed by Saul and his regime.
Right. Poole connects it directly back. The poor oppressed by Saul, often through the instigation and artifices of his fawning courtiers, those same flatterers with double hearts.
So their wicked words were having real, devastating effects on the vulnerable.
Absolutely. And the sighing of the needy suggests this deep, ongoing suffering wasn't silent. It was a cry reaching heaven.
It shows God hears those cries, even when earthly powers ignore them. What does God declare?
Now will I arise, saith the Lord. That word now is significant.
Why now?
Poole really emphasizes this. He says it indicates a speedy intervention, something happening sooner than the oppressors imagine or expect.
So it shatters their complacency.
Yeah.
They think they're getting away with it, but God's timing is sudden.
Exactly. It contrasts with the slow grind of their oppression. God's justice can be swift.
And what will God do when he arises?
He promises to set him, the needy person, in safety from him that puffeth at him.
Puff at him? What does that mean?
It's a fascinating phrase. Poole links it back to the wicked boasting about prevailing with their tongues. To puff at him means to despise him, to scorn him, hoping to destroy him with just a puff of breath or a parcel of words.
So it's God directly countering their verbal attacks, their contemptuous speech.
Precisely. It's a divine rebuke to those who dismiss and try to eliminate others with mere words, thinking they're invulnerable.
God defending the verbally abused, the ones scorned.
Yes. And Poole suggests God's action could be twofold. He might speak comfortably to the needy, offering reassurance, or he might speak in his wrath to the oppressor, bringing judgment on those who wield words like weapons. Either way, he's actively stepping in.
It's powerful. God rising up specifically against the misuse of words, against verbal bullying and oppression.
It shows he's not indifferent. He's a shield for the victim and confronts the abuser. It offers hope that the dismissed find their refuge in him.
Okay, so God promises to arise and set things right. But, people make promises all the time.
Right. The thought occurs. Saying and doing are two things. We've all experienced broken promises.
Exactly. People promise things they can't deliver, or maybe never intended to. How does the psalm address that potential doubt about God's promise?
It tackles it immediately in verse 6 by drawing a sharp contrast. Poole highlights this contrast. Unlike humans, who oft speak rashly what they cannot perform and deceitfully what they never intend, God is completely different.
This distinction is key then, moving from human unreliability to divine faithfulness.
Absolutely central. The psalm declares the words of the Lord are pure words.
Pure words. What does that purity involve, according to Poole?
He explains they are sincere, without the least mixture of vanity or falsehood. Remember, vanity meant falsehood, emptiness. God's words have none of that.
So they're genuine, truthful.
And because of that, Poole says, they shall infallibly be fulfilled. Their purity guarantees their performance.
Okay. No dross, as Poole puts it.
Right. Pure from all manner of dross, from all folly or fraud or uncertainty. God is presented as holy and true in all his doctrines, threatenings, predictions, and promises.
Total reliability. No hidden agendas, no mistakes, no changing his mind.
That's the foundation David is resting on.
And the psalm uses an analogy to illustrate this purity, doesn't it? Something about silver.
Yes, a really vivid one. God's words are, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times.
A furnace of earth. Poole explains that's like a clay furnace, right? Used for refining metal.
Exactly. The kind of thing they'd use back then for intense purification work. Now, picture silver going through that heat.
To burn off impurities.
Right. But not just once. The psalm says 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah.
That signifies perfection and completeness, doesn't it?
It does. It paints a picture of absolute refinement. Every last tiny impurity removed. It speaks volumes about the utter reliability, the flawless nature of God's words.
So when God speaks, his word is perfectly trustworthy. Tested and found completely pure. No deceit, no error.
That's the image. It grounds this idea of divine truth in something tangible, relatable. It tells you God's words aren't just true, they're perfectly true. Unlike the flawed human speech David was surrounded by.
The vanity, the flattery, the double-heartedness we talked about earlier, God's word is the complete opposite.
It's the bedrock of comfort for David in that chaos. The ultimate counterpoint to all the unreliable, destructive human words. It's firm ground.
You've got the puff of breath from the wicked, empty, harmful words.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have God's word, perfectly refined, tested, pure, carrying the weight of truth and promise.
That contrast couldn't be clearer. For David, this isn't just theology, it's his lifeline. The one certain thing.
The assurance that what God says, he will actually do.
Hmm.
His character is tied to the truthfulness of his words.
He's not like humans who can lie or forget. His speech is an extension of his holy nature, utterly dependable.
In a world where everything else seems shaky, that offers real stability.
So flowing from this confidence in God's pure word, the psalm then turns to a promise of preservation in verse 7.
What's the promise?
Thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever.
Okay, thou shalt keep them. Who are them? Does Poole shed light on that?
He does. He offers 2 interpretations, which actually work together quite well.
What was the first one?
The first possibility is that them refers back to the poor and needy mentioned in verse 5.
The ones God promised to set in safety.
Exactly. So God promises to guard them, the vulnerable, from the crafts and malice of this crooked and perverse generation. And not just for a little while, but forever.
A lasting protection for his people against the ongoing evil around them. Assurance they aren't abandoned.
Right. That's one interpretation. The second one is maybe even broader.
What's that?
That them refers to God's own words or promises from verse 6, the pure words, like refined silver.
So God will keep His own words.
Yes, he will observe and keep his own words, ensuring they are fulfilled, not just for David personally preserving him, bringing him to the throne, but also for his descendants from generation to generation.
So God is faithful to his people and faithful to his promises across time.
Both interpretations really underline God's faithfulness, his integrity in action and in speech. His plan isn't derailed by human wickedness.
But the psalm doesn't end there on a high note, does it? It seems to swing back to the grim reality.
It does. Verse 8 gives this stark picture. The wicked walk on every side.
On every side. What does that phrase convey? Poole probably has insights here.
He definitely does. He says it points to several things. First, their sheer great numbers. They seem to be everywhere, filling all places.
So an overwhelming presence of evil from David's perspective.
Yes. Second, Poole says it indicates their freedom and safety. They aren't being restrained or punished. They go about boldly and securely.
Implying a breakdown of justice, they act with impunity.
Seems like it. Which would be incredibly discouraging for those trying to live righteously.
What else does walk on every side suggest?
Poole also mentions their proficiency and success. They seem to grow worse and worse and prosper in and by their wickedness.
So their evil deeds are actually working out for them? In a worldly sense, they're succeeding through corruption.
That's the appearance, which, again, is disheartening. And finally, Poole says it points to their incessant and unwearied industry in doing mischief to good men.
They're relentless, constantly active in causing harm.
Yes. This pervasive, successful, relentless wickedness really underscores why David needed God to intervene so urgently. The pressure must have been immense.
And the psalm adds one more factor that makes it even worse.
Right. This situation is exacerbated when the vilest men are exalted.
Vilest men.
Who does Poole identify them as?
He explains, vilest men, or vilenesses, covers all manner of wickedness, lying and slandering, godlessness, oppression, cruelty, and the like. He notes the Hebrew word can mean glutton or drunkard, but here it's broader, any truly despicable person.
So it's not just that bad people exist, but that they're in positions of power.
Exactly. Poole states that under Saul's misgovernment, these vile persons and vile practices were both advanced and encouraged.
The leadership itself was promoting corruption.
That's the charge. And Poole says this destroyed the very foundations of society. This complete moral collapse, starting from the top, is the ultimate reason God's help is essential.
When leadership rewards vileness, everything unravels.
It paints a picture where trusting human systems, human words, human leaders is just impossible. Which makes the contrast with God's pure, reliable word even more striking. Poole really helps us see the depth of the crisis and the solidity of the hope David found. #give outro.
Yeah, looking at Psalm 12 this way, with Poole's help, it really does throw that contrast into sharp relief, doesn't it? Human deceit, arrogance, words like puffs of breath, versus God's truth, pure as refined silver, utterly reliable.
It shows that even when society seems to be crumbling, when leadership is corrupt, there's a solid place to stand in God's character and his promises. And that leaves us with something to think about, perhaps. In our own world, with all its confusing messages, its misleading words, authorities that sometimes fail us, where do you place your trust?
Where do you find that real safety, that certainty?
What hope does the absolute purity and reliability of God's words offer you today, especially when you encounter the falsehoods, the vanity of our own age?
Something to reflect on.
Definitely something to consider.